Welcome everybody to episode 94 of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. Before we get started with the podcast this week, all I ask for you guys is to leave a 5-star review and an honest rating of the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher, and also YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel. It's Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. Head over there on YouTube and subscribe, and let your boy know at Twitter at Notorious Joshi that you subscribe and you left a review for the podcast. On the show this week, you're about to listen to a 10-minute conversation I recorded on Monday with my mentor, Jonathan Hood from ESPN 1000, Sirius XM NBA Radio. Also, he does the play-by-play for USC Flames men's basketball. He came on the show for 10 minutes. We're going to record a longer interview sometime next month, but I'm glad I'm able to have Hoodie on this show this week because we touched a little bit about tanking in the local Chicago sports scene. You know, I like to switch things up here on the podcast. It's not always just wrestling on this show. We talk about that. We talk about can Zach Levine be the next Tracy McGrady? We get Jonathan's takes on what he's like in the world of professional wrestling, and some bear conversation as well. So it's only a 10-minute conversation. You're about to listen to that right now. And then after that, I'm going to come on here, and we got another guest coming on the show this week. We got Punkster back on the show. So Adam Daley and I are going to go over this week's programming and give our thoughts on what's going to happen with the Chamber, and who knows what happens when Punkster comes on the show. So sit back, relax, strap it down, because we're ready for episode 94 of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast on this Friday, February 23rd, 2018. I love you guys. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Hoodie, and of course the podcast portion with myself and Punkster. And if you ever have any suggestions for the podcast, please send it to me at Twitter at Notorious Joshi, or in my email account at prowrestlingtranscriptions@gmail.com. Enjoy the show, everybody. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. Wanted to play some old school wrestling themes since I have a guest on for this week's podcast. You can follow me at Twitter at TweetJHood, and Instagram at IGJHood. You can also check them out on USC Flames basketball, like tonight. As I record this on a Monday, Jonathan Hood and one of my other teachers at the Illinois Media School, Chris Black, is on the call tonight for USC Flames. And you also hear him providing the best airwaves at ESPN 1000, WMVP, Chicago. Here he is, the one and only Jonathan Hood. What's going on, my man?
Josh, thanks so much for having me, man. How are you?
Good. It's been a while since we last chat. I did see you downtown a couple months ago when I was hanging out with my friend Derek in New Orleans, but you're still kicking butt, I see.
Yeah, you know, it's not work when you're having fun. And I think that, you know, everything that you named, all the things that I've been doing, it's just a lot of fun. It's busy, but it's just a lot of fun. And as you well know, as someone that's tenured in the business, when you continue to do what you love, it just feels great. So that's what I'm going through right now.
I have one sports topic I want to bring up with you regarding the local scene, because it's a big theme that comes on your station. It's the topic of tanking. Now, for me personally, I'm opposed to tanking because, I find a lot of lazy narratives on a lot of shows. Not saying on your station, but I just mean throughout the market. And it's like, okay, the Cubs have this blueprint for success, but tell me where's the Theo Epstein for the NBA? Tell me where the Theo Epstein is for the NFL. If it's that easy to find this blueprint, just because the Cubs do it, that means every team in Chicago has to rebuild by the time it's 2019. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm opposed to taking. What's your thoughts on it?
No, Josh, you're right. I just think that it's okay to hit the reset button at times, because obviously those that are general managers or owners know their organizations better than we do. But I think that my whole point about tanking off has always been, if you do your due diligence as an organization first, if you see that you have some slippage where you have injuries and you're underachieving as a team, okay, you have to wait for those guys to heal, and you have to be able to look at the forest for the trees. If you feel like your team is getting too old, you feel like you need to be able to have some youth movement here and there, you can be able to do that on the fly instead of just tearing it all down. The perfect example of that is like the Atlanta Hawks, where the Atlanta Hawks were a 60-plus win team under Mike Budenholzer, and then all of a sudden they just said, well, we can't get past LeBron, or we're not as good as Toronto, so we're just going to pare it back. And they did it quickly. And I just think that instead of just giving up, you can always just build on what you're doing as a franchise.
Right.
And I think that's what you do. The Cubs thing was something that was an idea from Theo and Jed, and the Astros winning last year was great. But what I do know about tanking, Josh, is that nothing's guaranteed. So that's the whole point of it.
I just think what gets lost in the shuffle is that, you're in a rebuild, but either way, you have to develop. Like, you could talk about having the most amount of losses in the league, but if your players are not developing, what's the point? I guess that's my issue with taking, but...
Yeah, absolutely. And you asked the Sixers about that. I mean, they made a statement out of it. They made a slogan, a marketing slogan about trusting the process. Yeah. And okay, we all know, sure, trying to win and winning a championship for everybody is a process. But they come to find out that the whole gimmick is the process was really Joel Embiid. Yeah. It's not really about anybody else. The process is Joel Embiid and his development and him staying healthy. So to tell a fan base, especially in a big market, hey, we're going to lose for a while. You okay with that? But just keep paying money, keep paying to the nose for salaries or for tickets to fund the salaries of the players. That's just not right.
All right, quick yes or no question. Do you see any Tracy McGrady in Zach LaVine?
Yes. When he's dunking, for sure. Yeah, I do, yes. So the short answer is yes. I do see some signs from him that he could have Tracy McGrady tendencies. Yeah. Is that cool? I think that's how I see him,
Yeah, because I hear a lot in the past. Like, the big thing with this market, and you know this as well as I do, is a lot of revisionist history of who could have been here. Like, they were talking about Kobe coming to Chicago in that special with Shaq the other night. And Tracy McGrady was another free agent. I heard that was going to come here during the Jordan era. Like, they were going to replace Scotty with Tracy McGrady. I think that's what it was. So,
yeah, that's true. That was the time. That was the time where Jerry Krause brought the Lovables cheerleaders and Benny the Bull to the airport to greet Tracy McGrady there. And Tracy's like, what the hell? Like this is where's the former Bulls? You sent cheerleaders and the mascot to meet him at the airport, and Jerry Krause wasn't there for that. So that's one of the things that turned off Tracy from coming to Chicago.
Right. Let's move on to wrestling real quick. I know we don't have a lot of time, but we'll do a longer one sooner or later. Hoodie, what's catching your eye right now in wrestling? I think the Rumble got a lot of positive buzz from the men's Rumble match. The fact you're having AJ and Nakamura at WrestleMania is pretty cool. What's catching your eye as far as wrestling is concerned?
Well, I love AJ Styles, and because of my time, I probably watch more SmackDown in its entirety than Raw. I see a lot of clips on Raw. That's why you always can go to Hulu Plus or go to YouTube and see some of the highlights of it. I just think that AJ Styles is one of the best that we have in our business right now. Love watching him perform. If you would have told me 5 years ago that AJ Styles is one of the best promo guys in the business, I would have been like, no way. Based on his TNA run and watching him at the NWA Wild Side, I'm like, there's no way this guy can even get out a sentence. And now look at him. Look how measured he is on the mic. So that's a positive. Braun Strowman is just fun to watch. I'm praying for his health because as he continues to go through these matches, Josh, he becomes a must-watch for me because when you first see him, it's like, okay, they're trying to build him as a monster. And then he's just, every time he's in the ring, he's causing havoc, and he fills the bill of this crazy monster. So I love that. I think that The Miz is a must-watch because if you just watch the nuances of The Miz, you can see him backing up as a heel, and I like that because he was one of the best promo guys that they have in the company right now. I think he has been for a while, but now when you see him on his own, not a WWE produced thing, on his phone cutting promos, going from place to place, it just adds adds to that realism that like I'm the best, and it's going to turn him into a character babyface at some point because he wants to behave so badly in and out of the ring, and you watch him and his, he doesn't have to do a ton. As a heel, he doesn't have to do, 20 matches, 20 different moves. He does enough to be able to get himself over, and I think that that's fun. So, there's what I like about the WWE is that I may not like some of the writing, I may not like some of the finishes, but it doesn't mean that I don't like what the characters are trying to do. I think the superstars are really trying to break through and carve themselves their own niche, especially away from the production. And I think that's really cool. I enjoy that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And another guy that stands out to me recently is Elias, just from a heel standpoint, just the amount of heat that guy gets. And, I know a lot of people are not a fan of this guy, but I thought Jinder caused a lot of heat in Scuttlebutt during his run last year as well. I think I agree with what you're saying about for like storylines and stuff, but from my position where I cover the shows live and transcribing these matches, there's been a lot more wrestling, in-ring wrestling on these weekly shows, which I appreciate, and I get to study some of these guys do moves and stuff. It's really cool. One last topic I have before I let you go. What's your general thoughts on Jordan Howard? Because, I don't know, some people in the city love him. Some people think he's overrated, which is absolutely weird to me. How can a guy, a fifth-round draft pick, one of the few good draft picks that Ryan's has brought to the team, be overrated? I get it, he can't catch, but there's way more that he brings to the table than just bulldozing people. Maybe I'm seeing something wrong in my television stream, but I don't know how Jordan Howard can be overrated.
No, I don't think that he's overrated. I just think that he's just rated. I don't think that he's under or overrated. I think that he's just a solid player for the Bears. I think because he's 23, it's yet to be determined exactly what he is. Here's what I know for sure, is that when you look at the end of his season, Josh, you say, wow, he had a lot of yards, and it's hard to really be able to pinpoint, like, breakout games because the Bears' offense is so bad.
Yeah.
But I think that Jordan Howard at age 23 is definitely in the right direction. I think that in the NFL, you want to have two solid backs, but Jordan Howard, I think, you're right, as far as his catching abilities, he cost the Bears a game or two because he didn't catch the ball in the red zone. But, he's a young player. I think Jordan Howard is steady for the Bears. And here's the thing. You don't expect Ezekiel Elliott from Jordan Howard, do you? A kid from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, I think that from what he has provided, it's not bad. It's not awful, and it's not great yet. But as a young player, he's developing, so I wouldn't call him overrated. I would just say that he's a solid player for them that still has a lot to learn. I think that's just fair.
And I think that's fair to say for a lot of the late round picks that's been coming here for the last couple years, like Kwiatkowski, Eddie Jackson, I thought had a good year last year. Even guys that are undrafted like Bryce Callahan or Cravon LeBlanc have had their showing outs. And hey, I can't even forget Tariq Cohen. I mean, you had the opportunity to interview him before. He's awesome. So I guess the top round.
Tariq Cohen.
Yeah,
Tariq Cohen is probably he's provided a lot more than we thought he was going to. I think that he's about kids that got a lot to learn. Yeah. Tariq Cohen is one of those guys too that is you get him out in space. There's a little bit of a jitterbug out there, and is able to break through some tackles. And there's a couple of games that he won based on his feet and his ability to make people miss. So I like him too.
Now, I'm not going to guarantee any number of wins, but I do see some positive direction going for the team. Obviously, we'll see what happens in a couple weeks in free agency. There's a lot of Bears news will be coming our way in a couple weeks. But, Hoodie, I want to thank you for coming on the show, my man. We're going to do this again sooner or later and with more time because we got more topics to breach. Make sure to follow Jonathan on Twitter at TweetJHood. More importantly, at Instagram, at IGJHood. He also shares some good jams that you listen to on your way to the station. I hear the clips, so it's pretty good. Also, support his work at USC. He's doing play-by-play on USC men's basketball down there at the Pavilion, just like the good old days with Steamboat and Flair and Magnum TA. Kind of jealous, I'll admit that. But also, more importantly, he has a podcast that just dropped on Apple Podcasts, the Under the Hood podcast. Subscribe to that on Apple Podcasts. It's really good. You should check that out. And most importantly, check him out at ESPN 1000. WMVP Chicago. There you go, Tom Waddle. That's for you.
That's exactly right. Still doesn't know the ID. So I'm glad you spent time. Let's do it again soon, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Buddy, to episode 94 of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. It's Friday. February 23rd, 2018. Recording live from my studio apartment in Chicago, Illinois. I've been pretty busy the last couple of days. Just when I think there's not 10 wrestling shows to cover, then New Japan decides to do 2 specials with Ring of Honor the week of a pay-per-view as well. So your boy's busy, but you can check out my articles at Twitter at not on Twitter, but at ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. Check that out. Bookmark it. If you want to support my work, go ahead. And I do a little throwback Thursday features. Sometimes I like to challenge myself and do movie scripts. A couple weeks ago, I did the Seth Rollins WWE 24 special, which was a lot of fun doing that. So if you like my play-by-play articles, go to ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Just listen right there with Jonathan Hood. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at TweetJHood. Like I told you at the beginning of the show, Hoodie was not going to be the only guest in the show. And honestly, this guy's not a guest. He's a brother. He's a good brother. And not the good brothers where like, oh, you're on Twitter and you see somebody, like you talk to them a couple times and they're like acquaintances like that type of good brother. This guy is the actual good brother. Punkster's back on the show. What's going on, my bro?
Brother, what's up? Thank you. I appreciate the introduction there. I've realized I think I'm like everybody's least favorite visitor that comes once a month and then just like goes away for another for another month. No, Josh, it's good to be back. Thanks for having me. And yeah, let's just get this battle going. We got some stuff to talk about, I think, huh?
Yeah, we got a lot to get into this week. And it may not be fully just from a content standpoint. I mean, we never really broke down segment by segments before on these shows. Like our heads would be exploding by that point, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was enough avenues to do that. I don't think we really need to. One thing I wanted to, before I forget, because this is so trivial, I will forget, but it needs to be talked about.
All right, go ahead.
And maybe it's a selfish reason, but I'm early consideration for 2018 Tweet of the Year. I'm going to nominate Drake Maverick. And I don't know, and listen, I didn't get to see Black Panther yet, but I've seen enough of the clips and I've heard enough people talking about it. I can't wait to see it, but he tweeted out that it's 5 minutes into Black Panther. Go to his Twitter account, guys, so that we can see the exact tweet. But I think it said he's 5 minutes into Black Panther, and just something about how he referenced, it looked like it was a Coming to America sequel. Yes. That was one of the most hysterical. I mean, it was just, it's funny how, because from what I understand, people cosplaying and people going in characters that, like, it absolutely, there was people actually dressed up as the characters from Coming to America to go to one of these showings somewhere. So the fact that he pulled that joke out, I thought it was funny. I know people were some people were probably going to say that it was a racist comment.
Right.
No. If you know the movie Coming to America, and I've seen it a million times, that they're coming out with a Funko Pop line, by the way.
Nice.
But it was, so that's great comedy. So good job, Drake Maverick. That's why you're on 205 Live.
Let's start off with that, actually. I know you've been putting over Drake Maverick over the last couple weeks. Have you seen any recent 205 Live shows?
I haven't, because it's been a little busy this week, and we didn't watch last season of Walking Dead, so Sam actually has to catch up with an entire season before that season starts, I guess, maybe this weekend. So I am going to start that next week. But You're correct. I've been putting Drake Maverick over pretty heavy because I always enjoyed his stuff previous to, when he was Dark Spot. I thought he was a guy that knows how to connect to the crowd. He gets it. He just gets that entertainment aspect of it. And, Josh, I talk a lot about Graves, and I talk a lot about Bobby Heenan. I make comparisons, and I get it. People can shoot arrows at me all you want, but this is another guy that really just gets the true entertainment side of it and really knows how to connect with the crowd. And when that happens, you know this, brother. It's now your talent's getting over more. You know what I mean?
Right.
When you have a guy that can present your talent in a certain way that it's exciting, it's fresh, it's new. And, I saw him being active on social media before I really even knew that there was a tournament going on, and just how he's totally selling everything that's happening with the tournament online and calling out wrestlers online too. I think it's a very refreshing way to handle a general manager character. And I think it's pretty innovative. I'm upset I haven't got a chance to get into the tournament yet, but hey, isn't that the great thing about the WWE Network? You binge watch, wink, wink, nudge.
Right. I agree, dude. There's a lot of underrated aspects of 205 Live that I've noticed, and I'm in a different position because I've been covering 205 Live since it started a couple years ago, and when it first started, we had the Cruiserweight Classic, and then Mara was calling the weekly shows. That was a lot of fun for me. A lot of the folks that listen to this podcast know that I'm an in-ring wrestling guy, and I'm not a snob in a way. I want to make that perfectly clear. I'm not an in-ring wrestling snob. Like, I'm also down for entertainment and trolling humor. You know that as well as I do, Punkster. So, like, I love what's going on for 205 from an in-ring standpoint with this tournament, but you're mentioning Drake Maverick and how he presents himself as a general manager. I want to give shout-outs to a former guest of the PWE show, Nigel McGuinness, for what he's been doing on color commentary recently. This dude is a major point of reference for me when it comes to these fancy, high-flying moves and takeovers and all this shit. Nigel's been putting in some good work on commentary, so I want to give a shout-out to him as well. And for anybody that wants to go out of their way to even binge watch the tournament, you don't have to watch the other matches or storylines on 205 Live. If you want to watch these tournament matches before WrestleMania, go ahead and check it out. I think it's cool that they're intertwining these NXT guys and UK division in the tournament as well. I mean, Buddy Murphy had a really good showing this week on 205 Live, so it's nice to see him on the show. So 205 Live is picking some nice momentum, and Drake Maverick is best for business. We'll throw that out there.
You know what, Josh, I want to say one thing, too, that you know that I don't mean any malice behind this, so please, if anybody listening thinks that this is like trying to take a shot at somebody, it's not. But I do think that, in a way, the Enzo situation might have been the best thing to happen to 205 Live. And the reason why I say that is it forced them to do something drastic. Listen, I know them putting the title on Enzo, it was maybe boosting ratings, not as obviously as much as I think he was leading on, but it boosted stuff up. It was making them money. It was giving them more visibility. I get that. But it still, I don't think, was drawing anybody new in. Like, for me, somebody that typically, I should be watching that show every week. I've never watched it. And it's not because it's just, it's not a slight on any of the talent there. It's nothing like that. It's just not enough time in the week,
Right.
But ever since they've kind of been forced to strip Enzo of the title because of his termination and kind of start a tournament and, bring Drake Maverick in, and how they kind of almost did a soft reset with the show in a way, and even if they didn't, it feels that way to somebody who hasn't been watching the show. I think that may have saved 205 Live. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if I would be sitting here saying, man, I can't wait to watch it. I can't, thinking of when I can maybe fit in a binge watch to get the tournament in. I wasn't ever thinking about that way with 205 Live ever, So I think it was, unfortunately, sometimes bad situations lead to good results. And that's not a shot at Enzo by any stretch of the imagination. Right. I don't want anybody to take that. This is strictly that, unfortunate circumstances happen, and sometimes, there's one or two directions you can go, and it's nice to see them kind of, I guess, in a way, preserve the brand a little bit.
I haven't really asked you this question in this way. I know we've talked in the past privately about like just our general issues with media. It doesn't have to be just wrestling related, but for you, like, what if you had to pick out one fundamental issue with today's media landscape from somebody who observes it? Hey, obviously you do this for fun and you're a personality. You're not an analyst, neither am I. I'm not a journalist. We were talking about this before we started recording the show today. What is the one fundamental issue you may have with media in general, and even wrestling Twitter, since that's a freaking thing now in 2018? That's so weird.
Yeah. Everything has like a subgenre on Twitter and Reddit. I guess my issue is it's not necessarily the media itself, and I only say that because I'm done blaming other entities for our problems.
Right.
I think it's very easy to point the finger and say, well, it's the media's fault or it's this fault. I think the problem is that we showed our hand as humans that we're all nosy people. We want to know, we're gossipers, we're all know-it-alls, we all think that, and the problem with that is that there's so many different media outlets out there now that no matter whatever your narrative is, there's something that's going to fit your narrative, so you will never hear any other narrative but your own. And, and that's, I don't care if we're talking sports, if we're talking politics, if we're talking wrestling, if we're talking social issues, it really doesn't matter. There's, and it's always going to be that way. And it's better. We need competition. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But we fall in love with sensationalism. We fall in love with personalities, and we fall in love with. We talk about this all the time. Hell, Josh, we talked about this ever since we've done media together. One of the biggest problems is everybody loves tragedy, man. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but like people, I don't like what happened in Florida, but I'm very inspired by the teenagers down there. I am extremely inspired by what's going on down there. On the flip side of it, it sucks that this is what's in our heads. But at the same time, we all vicariously watch. We all. It doesn't. As much as we complain that shouldn't be on TV, we watch. So I think that's my problem. Is that with media is that they figured out that we are gullible and we're going to fall for anything. So they're going to play into every narrative possible, knowing that there's a market for every narrative possible. Mm-hmm. Like literally, people it's tied into current events. There's seriously these kids are paid actors down there in Florida. Really, this is how low we've gotten on a quote unquote media totem pole.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It goes back to Sandy Hook too. That didn't happen. It was a false flag. But this is disgusting tinfoil hat type behavior. And the problem though is that because we've allowed it to kind of just be, oh well, ha ha ha, it's there. There's more of that than actual news, because that's what people want, Josh. People want people want their opinions validated through some form of media, and it doesn't matter if it comes from a relevant source. And that's why, and John, you know this, that was one of the reasons why I had to take a break. But I sent you a message whenever I was like, I feel guilty. I need to take a step back and, because I don't want anybody taking something I say as gospel, and then all of a sudden they think, oh, well, this kid's a wrestling expert. It's like, no, man. No, I'm a fan that's trying to make people laugh. I'm a shoot some reader,
That's the last
thing. What do you think, Josh? What do you think the main issue with media or the consumption of media is?
I'll just speak from my experience being in the business. It's just the mindset that comes from people who are on-air reporters and people who run networks and this and that. And I just think I would say skeptic, but more of a elitist mindset towards the way you go about things, the way you talk about things, the way you project your narratives towards people, like you're mentioning. I have an issue with how things are being spun in a way, because let's be honest, there's a lot of things that are being spun in media. It's not something I'm proud about, but it happens. It's the
Everything
truth.
gets spun. Here's the case in point, Josh, and this is where I got to call bullshit on something.
Mm-hmm.
Case in point, I'm not saying this isn't part of it too, and I don't mean to talk about this, but this is a good scenario, Josh, of how anything can be spun however you want to shape it. News can be shaped and shifted to fit anybody. And listen, and I'll take the heat on this, Josh. I apologize, but the tragedy that happened in Florida, absolutely, mental health is a part of this issue. I'm not saying that it's not. We'd be remiss to say that.
Right.
But to all of a sudden only focus on mental health, here's where I have to call bullshit on that. Someone commits suicide in this country every 22 minutes. That's unacceptable. So why is nobody talking about that? Why is a red flag for mental health a school shooting instead of all these other statistics that we have of not suicide rates, depression? I mean, we can go on and on and on and on. But we only want to talk about mental health now when there's a gun involved. If there wasn't a gun involved, they wouldn't even talk about mental health.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because then they'd blame, it's just, the kid was just crazy. He wouldn't be sick, he'd be crazy. So I think that, there is a certain way to always shift, anything that anybody wants to talk about. But unfortunately, I think where, to kind of tie into what you're saying, people want that hard take, that strong opinion that doesn't budge so bad that when you present them with facts, facts don't matter anymore. And that's problematic, Josh. To live in a society where facts have absolutely no relevance anymore. I mean, when you have and this is not because of who it is, but when our president cuts mental health funding, how are you going to blame this on mental health? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different ways that you could just call bullshit. And I'm sure that on the opposite way, too. To say it was just strictly guns is absolutely, that's BS, too. But that's the problem, Josh, is that nobody wants to have a conversation. Everybody wants to be cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of ties into what you're saying, because, nobody wants to hear the other side of things, but nobody wants to hear a conversational kind of show where, it might not be that exciting, like it might not be that great, but, you might learn something, or you might expand your mind a little bit. People don't want that.
Yeah.
People want, this shit sucks, hell, no, blah, blah, blah. That's what people want. People want conflict. People want tragedy. And as much as people say they don't,
yeah, this is convoluted. I hear that all the time, especially in wrestling circles. This is a true story, and I haven't told anybody this before, but when I was still on the pipe bomb, right before Mania, I got an indirect message from one of the main guys that ran the network, basically saying that, even though by the way, the name of the show is called A Pipe Bomb, right? you know what comes with a pipe bomb, right? Honesty and truth, not just venting about things you don't like. I think people misconstrue that from the Punk promo, and he was talking about what he was dealing with, not having people feel sorry for him. I think people misconstrue that. But anyway, going back to the message I got.
It's not about just a hot take, it's about speaking truth to power.
Period. Absolutely. So I get this message saying, sometimes we get the vibe that you go out of your way to attack the hardcore community and hardcore wrestling fans. I wrote back, I said, no, it's actually the opposite. I'm trying to go out of my way to remind people that opinions are not facts. Now, you guys like to spin your narrative about Roman Reigns like it's the gospel, and I don't say anything about it. I don't call you out for it, and I don't need to call anybody out. I'm not Stephen A. Smith. I'm not Skip Bayless. I don't need to do that. but you want to call me out on my shit, be ready to prepare for my response, because I don't hold back when it comes to that shit. I don't think that's cool. So speaking my truth in my voice means that I'm trying to be a preacher and this or that. I just think that's ridiculous, and that's one of the main reasons why I left that network, man. Because like, you can't be yourself, you can't have your own voice, you can't think the opposite. It's like, oh, well, but every time you listen to it, it kind of seems like you're always going the opposite direction. Good. Good. I'm happy you feel that way. Good thing I'm not ruttering out the same shit everybody else is saying. How about that?
Well, yeah, and that's, you know what, that's also the problem. Listen, this is anything, this is Rusted media, this is all media, realistically, this is all media. And I think this is a lot of the reasons why Sam and I really haven't been doing our show, and I don't know if we are. You know, and if we do, it's going to be something so satirical that most people are going to hate it, but the people that like it, or, you know, the 6 people that like it are going to like it. But the problem is, this is one of the reasons why Sam left the show that she was on previously, is that there is every shift in the narrative that they want driven. And if you don't play into that narrative, then you're not. And listen, we can talk about this with news stations too. You know, and I'm not going to take sides, because I'm not going to say that the news that I watch is right.
Right.
But every channel absolutely has a certain narrative or a certain demographic that they're trying to hit. To say that there isn't is you're kind of, you know, you'd have to be naive to think that. That's why there's 6 news channels. You know, I just find it out there's like 6 or 7 news channels, and five I think are like extremely far right conservative enough. But that's neither here nor there when it comes to consumption. But I think that's the problem. And Josh, I think we've seen this not only in sports media, wrestling media, you name it, because whatever other subgenre was in media, as soon as you don't fit that narrative anymore, you're recycled.
Yep.
Because you need that. Shows realize that they have a certain demographic, and there's nothing wrong with that. Listen, that's how you build your base. But if they play into their demographics hand, rather than, you know, and I don't know, I've never been one to kind of, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm too much of an individual. I've always kind of been my own type of dude.
Same here.
So, yeah, I don't know, I can't, I'm not going to be told what to say, and that's why I stayed on at Mania Carnage, and that's honestly why Sam and I, the only reason why we really stayed on Mania Carnage, because Cade was so great with us, and he trusted us enough to kind of allow us to, you know, produce our own content. He knew we wouldn't cross certain lines. He knew we were gonna keep him out of trouble. Is basically what I'm saying, you know. But I don't know, man. I think here's where I wonder. Here's where I worry, though. And you know what? I guess there could be blame placed all over the place, right? If we wanted to, because it's the consumer and it's the entertainer too. I mean, so it absolutely is, because we have to be smart enough we have to start to go back to a time when it's okay to hear a difference of opinion and know just how to talk about it. You know, and it's just people don't want that. And that is unhealthy. But that's I don't know. Again, I see a bunch of students down in Florida that aren't playing their computers right now. It's Capitol building. They're in the streets. They're actually making change happen in this country.
Right.
And then I see a bunch of wrestling books on their computers, thinking that as long as they keep slamming their keyboards and interacting with podcasts, eventually their person's going to be WWE champion. It's really, when you put it into that perspective, it's kind of comical in a way. You know what I mean? Like it really, really is. So that's why it's hard for me. I mean, Josh, I love doing this with you, and that's why I reached out again, because I realized I missed this, but I didn't miss trying to pander to people. And I don't want anybody to take that the wrong way either. I love anybody that's followed like Sam or me or whomever throughout our career. But we've never pandered to anybody. You know what I mean? And maybe to a fault. But do you find that, though, Josh? I mean, is is that something that especially somebody that's went to broadcasting school, has been in the broadcasting, that's been doing this now for going on 5-6 years now?
Yeah.
Does this bother you that it's in a way? It's not about talent anymore. It's just about understanding and knowing how to talk to your listeners. Rather than engaging in what could be like I always go back to what Bobby Graves said: are you helping the business or are you hurting the business? Not that we're in the business, but if we're going to pretend to be in the business anyway, are we doing any good or are we not doing any good? And I guess that's where I would present you that question.
Remember I told you the other day it's more about people stroking each other's bullshit just so we don't have conflict? I think
Absolutely.
I think it's more of that. And let me say this too, though, from experience and what I was taught from school, and I appreciate the fact that I had Hoodie on this show this week because he does late night at ESPN. He's been doing it for over 20 years now, and in my humble opinion, and this is not pattern, this is just how I honestly feel, and I got the chance to work and learn from this guy for over 2 years, and he's been a good mentor of mine and a great friend, and I really appreciate him. I said before that you're a big part of me molding into the broadcast I am today, but also same credit goes to this guy as well, because this guy, in my opinion, he is the best guy in this market. He doesn't hold back. He's not trying to impress everybody. He's not following with the same narrative. So for those who live in Chicago and listen to Chicago Sports Talk Radio, the main thing you hear every single show from morning to late afternoon is tanking this, tanking that, and this, that, and the other. But what does Hoodie do? He has a rational conversation. He tries to think outside the box. He doesn't go with the mold. And you may think, oh, hey, we have this African-American guy who's a better veteran and the best guy in the market. But you stick him in late nights because that's for the crowd that wants the truth and people that can have actual conversations. You have that at night. You want the angry-headed people that have no common sense and want to vent all the time in the mornings and afternoons. That's the truth about this business. It's cut and dry like that. And I learned that the hard way from job interviews I've done. I've been talking about this recently with Adam, just how the media business works. And it's just unfortunate, man. I learned that you need to find a way to find your voice. If that pisses people off, too bad. I would rather, and I learned this from Hoodie, you rather be known to have respect for people because they knew they got the best of you because you weren't bullshitting them, instead of, oh, this guy has the same style voice as the main anchor guy, going through the same motions that person goes as well. So I want to give a shout out to Hoodie for that because he deserves it, and it's just really sad where the market is today, to be honest with you, from a business standpoint. And I'll never understand it. It's kind of a shame where you look down at other people because you don't spew out the same fucking shit that comes out of their brain. I don't want to live in your brain. And you shouldn't want to live in my brain. It's fucking weird.
And you know what, Josh? I think a lot of it, and listen, I hope Hoodie's listening to this because, brother, I have listened, I've heard of you for years and years and years. I've heard stories, so I hope you understand what kind of influence you had on this young gentleman that's on the show with me right now. So, Hoodie, I hope you're listening. But, and Josh, I think a lot of the problem is, and again, I hate to use the easiest reference possible or easiest example possible, but this is where I do think that, and I bring this up ad nauseum damn near every show that, even when Sam and I were wrapping up Wrestling West, but I just think that this is an era that we're all going to look back on 10, 20, 30 years from now and really regret this social media era of oversharing and everybody wanting to be a celebrity and everybody kind of wanting to self-brand and kind of, because in the process we all, a lot of just kind of lost sight of what was fun to begin with, you know. And I think that social media has really it's changed the way we talk to one another. You know, we people don't know how to communicate as human beings anymore. And listen, when you're behind the keyboard, it's easy to say whatever the hell you want to. And we talk about this. And I'm glad this actually picked up a lot of steam just, I think, on wrestling Twitter, quote unquote, anyway this week, because there was something that an indie guy or something, or something with Grimm's Toy Show or something, whatever, some gimmicky thing that happened,
YouTube
and fans
show.
were going
He's a
crazy
YouTube
about
guy.
it. Yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's getting worked, I'm sure, and it's, you know, I'm not, I don't know. But you know what, listen, there's a lot of truth when it says, like, you know, retweet me in person. Like, I'm not taking sides in any of that, because I think it's all a shoot, and even if it isn't a shoot, I don't really care enough to whatever. But there is he's absolutely right. You know, everybody has so much to say online. They would never say it to your face.
Right.
But that's problematic in society, though, because then everybody becomes paranoid. Everybody has a chip on the shoulder. Everybody's unhappy, negative. You're expecting the worst. So even if somebody, like, tweets a joke at you, you know, you take it the wrong way because you're so used to the 8 negative tweets you got before then. You know, and it's just one of those where I think that's a really, really big issue right now, too. There's a want to be angry in this country. Definitely in this country. I mean, and I think that in different areas of the world, maybe so. But in this country right now, there's a need to be angry that I don't understand, and I avoid. That's why I've been kind of staying off of. And I've been very, when I do communicate on social media, if I've come across as kind of like very snarky lately, yes, it's been intentional because I'm just not dealing with negativity anymore.
Right. I wanted to say this, though. This comes from a positive point of view, because you mentioned I've been doing this for 5 years now, and I was at a point growing up where I was so shy that I rarely talked to the people. It said, like, the people I had in my circle in my elementary class. Like, I'm not looking for sympathy from anybody, but I was bullied during that time period, and I didn't have any self-confidence or anything. And for anybody that even met me if I was like 10 or 11 years old, it's kind of different from what you're listening to right now. I always had the same personality when I was at home. I never changed who I was growing up. I want to make that perfectly clear. But when I was in public and going out to school and high school and during that time period growing up, I was very reclusive. And that's something that I'm not proud of, because maybe I should have been more open and not try to look at like everybody's trying out to get me. But that's how I felt at the time. And I was born with tubes down my ears. I couldn't hear for the first 2 years of my life. I dealt with a lot of shit growing up, man. And, you know, having your parents divorce in your junior year of high school is never fun. You know, family going disarray and this and that. And I didn't know what I was going to do. You know, I always looked at music as my escape, not because I was good at it. I never looked at it that way from a cocky point of view. I looked at music because it was something that was fun and I can escape, and I didn't have to think about bullshit and drama. And that's how I look at broadcasting in a way and doing this podcasting. Is there times where I'm mentally exhausted from covering big amounts of wrestling or seeing countless negativity on social media? Yeah. I mean, I'm a human being after all, but as I started becoming a broadcaster, I'm having that same feeling like I was as a kid when I first started loving music and playing music, because I had that escape in doing this podcast. And even when I was doing the podcast with you, it was an escape for me, and I didn't have to worry about being ridiculed or this, that, because I didn't give a shit. When I was doing concerts and playing around the country and playing at Berkeley, I didn't care what anybody thought, because I was in my place, I was in my zone. And when I'm doing a podcast like this, or I'm typing an article now these days, that's my escape. And we all have our different paths for what makes us happy and where we are at our best in life, in our career or whatever. But that's how I went about it. And, you know, I think for you, because you never applied any stress to me when I was doing this show. We had so much fun. It was we didn't have to think that hard, to be honest with you, when we were recording these shows. We were shooting this shit all the time. It was like I was sitting next to you. And
people overcomplicated it.
Yeah. I guess that's the biggest thing I take away since the 5 years I've been doing this. I'm back to where I was when I was falling in love and playing music. And I'm having that same feeling now as a broadcaster. I don't care what people think about me anymore. I don't. I generally get excited to record this podcast. I think we do something different here to get you guys, provide a different perspective on this show. I mean, yeah, you know, editing a show on GarageBand ain't always fun. It can be a pain in the ass, but I mean, it's part of the gig. We all have the stuff that we had to deal with. It's life. And again, I'm not looking for sympathy, but I do want to be real with you guys. And, you know, I put a post about this Instagram yesterday. I decided that I was going to take a chance of being a broadcaster, and I don't regret it because it's helped me get a chance to meet you. That would have happened if I didn't become a broadcaster. I think for the other friends and mentors I had along the way, like Steve and Hoodie. So I don't regret going down this field. I don't. I feel like I'm hitting my stride. Yeah, I'm not hired by a company right now, but fuck it, man. I know the future is bright. I made the right decision.
Well, I look at it this way too, and this is something for anybody that's listening to this that ever thinks like, why would anybody listen to me on a podcast? You know. And Josh, you know, I tell you this all the time. I mean, I don't go into what I do outside of work because or outside of this kind of stuff because it's not really anybody's business. But I get paid to do media stuff, and I don't know if that would ever happen if I wasn't doing like podcasting and stuff like that. You know,
right?
Written work, stuff, you know. So you know, so I'm doing like written media stuff that I get paid for, which is it's nice when you get paid for it. But you know, I got approached to potentially do some voiceover work coming up here pretty soon, and some other things too. So the thing is like you never know. You know, yeah. Ultimately, like when you start, you know, everybody wants to be in podcasting. It's like I want to be a podcaster, and then I'm going to be in wrestling, and I'm going to do this and that. But it's one of those where, like Josh, I've always told you this. This is why you should always stay at it. You never really know what other doors are going to open up along the way. You know, and the beautiful part about it is, like, you know, I'm really, really enjoying life right now. Kind of getting paid to do what I love. You know, just like anybody else, there's like the stuff that sucks about my job, just like anybody else. You know, but you know, it's really opened up a lot of avenues for me, and I don't know if it would have, you know, these things would have ever presented themselves if, you know, we weren't doing things together, if we weren't, you know, if I wasn't working with collaborating with like with the DERE, however whatever his last initial is, you know, but it's different, you know, different outlets that Sam and I were on before and whatever.
Right.
You know, anytime something presents itself to you guys, take it, but stick, you know, just stick to your own code of ethics. Don't ever allow. So when you're doing something for free, don't infringe your own morals, because at the end of the day, something will, you know, just keep at it because something will happen with it. You know, and that's why I always tell you, listen, you've been doing it for 5 years, something will happen eventually for you. These are the facts.
Right. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Monday Night Rollins and the Gauntlet match that happened this past Monday. Shout out to let's see if I get the city right. Phoenix. Yes. Phoenix. Good crowd on Monday. We had the 7-man gauntlet match, just a little teaser before the Elimination Chamber. Like, I guess one of the cool parts about not doing the pipe bomb anymore or being out of the Twitter community circle is that I don't have to look at 30 million tweets about, oh, this is the go home show. Oh, how are we gonna get that hook?
It's a holiday show. It's a holiday show.
Right.
It's gotta suck. It's a holiday show.
It was President's Day, right?
I think it was, it was
something like that.
My daughter had off school.
Yeah.
Which, why did the kids have off school for President's Day? Really?
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah, go on.
Really? But I was telling Adam this the other day after the match was over. It's like the hardest but funnest matches for me to cover as a wrestling fan are Fatal 4-Ways, Gauntlet matches, or a Lucha Underground like crazy multi-man match. Like they always change up the names for it throughout the years, or the seasons they do. But like when you have multi-man matches and you try to remember these guys' sequences and it's elimination format and you get to space it out, and I've been lucky to find the right format for transcribing these matches. And it's kind of the way I have my own wrestling 101 school. I've actually been able to find out the sequences and the stories of the matches. That's been a lot of fun to do. And the Gauntlet match was no different on Monday. The match went over 2 hours live. And it all ended up with Braun Strowman winning, which was fine. And it was fun with the little promo he cut after on the stage with Charlie. He's like, "Hey, you hear me, Beastie Boy?" And then he's like, you caught this, right? He's like, "Hey, Charlie, I'm sorry. I have some business I need to attend to."
Yeah, where did Beastie Boy come from?
Oh, man.
Yeah, okay, so because I have a little, thought process about the match. What did you think about that as a way to start the show?
I thought it was cool, and I liked the Roman promo that started off the show. One of the main things, if I ever had any critiques with the Roman character, is not his win-loss record. It's the fact that the guy gets cut off every time he does a promo or an interview. Like, I actually want to see him go out and say what he needs to say and just go about it. I guess that was the cool part about that promo the night after WrestleMania, where he had everybody in the palm of his hand and he just said a couple words and then he left. He could do that. And that's the only... If I ever had any critique about that, it's not overcoming odds or made to look stronger, any of the stupid shit you hear all the time. I just want to hear him cut longer promos, because I know he can do it, but you don't need to have somebody cut him off and just for the hell of it. So it was nice to hear him talk before the Gauntlet match. The history books is out there, and I made a statement that Seth Rollins put on a performance that I haven't seen on Raw since the one Shawn Michaels did with John Cena in that hour-long match in London. You remember that one?
If that was around the time, was that 2007?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember the match because I was just recently moving to Charlotte, North Carolina. I was a really bad alcoholic at the time. So chances were, even if I was watching, I was probably real drunk. No. I remember obviously the feud, like the feuding and like everything, but I don't remember the match in particular.
Yeah, it was the closest thing to a Shawn Michaels performance that I saw from an in-ring standpoint. And I know that's high praise because Shawn is a legend after all, but that was really special for how he pulled that off with both guys back to back like that. And like I mentioned earlier, the Phoenix crowd was really good during this match, and I liked how they spread out different entrances and stuff. And I thought Elias got a nice shine to eliminate Seth Rollins, and then you had Finney Travolta having his battle with the Miz, and then Miz doing the heel stuff. And I just thought from a storytelling standpoint, from the beginning of the show with him and Roman, all the way to the stuff with Braun being Braun, I just thought that was really cool, and that's something that's rare in today's WWE. I don't think you could do gauntlet matches like that all the time, but when you have a thread like that for the first 2 hours of the show and the way they pulled it off, that's something that people are going to remember. People are going to remember this Raw episode for a long time because of that performance, and also for that match as well, because every single person in their own way benefited in that match, not just Seth Rollins.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So before I get to like the comical side of like how I watched it, I want to give a shout out to Chris Walter, because when I watched Raw on Monday night, being the Jericho mark that I am, that's the first thing I thought of too was, wow, like, how does this compare to Jericho beating Stone Cold and The Rock at the same night, to get the Undisputed Championship?
Right.
I'm glad Walter put that on, had that on Twitter, because I was thinking the same thing. And, I don't know, man. There was just something special about this, and I felt like the matches were better. And I get it. It's different stories were being told, so it's, it's kind of comparing apples and oranges. But this is... Do you think, in a way, Seth Rollins needed this kind of performance? Not to me, not to you, not to the wrestling bubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Seth Rollins is, and if I'm picking anybody off the main roster, it's really my guy. I'm a Rollins guy first.
Okay.
I'm a Mark. I'm a Mark really for damn near the entire roster. I guess.
But Rollins is your guy.
But this, in a way, I think maybe because he's been lost in the shuffle so much with storylines because of injuries and because of his own injuries to tag team partners, and everything else has been kind of going on for the past year and a half. He didn't become like the forgotten man, but he's kind of been the man that's been just been shifted here or there. Like he's kind of been the jack of all trades. He's been the cog that just keeps getting wherever they need a replacement. He's been filling in. I think that outside audience needed to be reminded why the hell he's Seth freaking Rollins. You know what I mean? And this is a very fantastic reminder of who the hell Seth Rollins really is.
Right. I think what we saw on Monday was the cherry on the top, but the moment that he needed was that promo segment with Kurt Angle. That's the moment I thought that where he regained his momentum. What he saw, like, I've seen him put that type of performance in the ring with the Bar. These guys have been putting crazy pay-per-view tag team matches even before Ambrose got injured. There's no mistaking of how good this guy is in the ring. Let's not forget that. But I think from a character standpoint, when he had that, I wouldn't say emotional, but like you saw his passion coming out during that segment with Kurt Angle. That was the moment I like, all right, here we go. Here's Seth freaking Rollins.
I love the Monday Night Rollins shirt.
It's tremendous.
Yeah, that's something. That's a nice addition too. So it's a nice little. I hope they have something decent set up for him at Mania.
Yeah, and it's kind of early for us to predict what's going to happen out there, man. There's always a bunch of shit thrown out there. Oh, we're going to have Braun and Miz and this and that. Like, how do you know? I think what's cool about this year's WrestleMania is that we don't know what the card is. Like, everybody goes out of their way to find a leak for this thing, and it hasn't showed up yet. And I'm not looking for it, by the way, for anybody that's wondering. I'm not looking for it. Don't send it to me. I don't want it.
Yeah, I don't want it. It's so nice not having any idea. And then, there's just this is one alone, on the Ronda Rousey aspect. Like, we have no idea what she's going to do. None. I mean, look, she's going to be a part of WrestleMania. We know that. But, I've heard rumors that because somebody tweeted at me something about Stephanie McMahon. Okay, maybe. Maybe Asuka. Maybe. Because maybe what if she enters the chamber? Maybe Charlotte Flair. Maybe this person. I'm not knowing. You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of quasi-selling the pay-per-view on Sunday for me because I want to see what happens. Do they do the contract signing first and she ends up in the match at the end of the night? Maybe.
Does she attack Mandy Rose? Something like that. You know what I mean?
No, I actually think that if anybody gets attacked and taken out, it's going to be Mickie James. And I think that I don't know. I know everyone keeps. I don't want to say everyone. I had one person tweeted me something about Ronda Rousey and Stephanie McMahon. And maybe I'm just looking too deep into things. I think that a good storyline right now that people aren't really looking at is a potential Alexa Bliss versus Stephanie McMahon match. Because she's being put in all the... It's not like she could wrestle Kurt Angle, you know what I mean? But she's being put in the Elimination Chamber match. Then she's, she hasn't defended the title in however many months, But now she's going to have to do... she can complain about all these different grievances that she's had over the past couple weeks. And they're kind of teasing a face turn with her anyway, right? I mean... Yeah. I don't know. I think that unless they have... It's her and Mickie James versus Absolution.
I think her and Stephanie would be really good. If you're asking me, I think Alexa and Stephanie would be really good. I think that'd be an interesting program. I want to circle this back to Ronda Rousey really quick. But last thing on the Rollins tip in this gauntlet match, that roll through attitude adjustment that he did on Cena was that was sick.
It was awesome. I mean, dude, he was so good the other night. That was one of those nights. Okay, so it's never been a secret that I like saving matches typically for pay-per-views. This is kind of the funny side that I want to talk about. I like saving matches for pay-per-views. Long story short, as soon as they were like, we're going to start this gauntlet match, I looked at Sam and went, are you fucking kidding me? Knowing that it was going to like go for a while. And then when Rollins, I'm like, how? Because I don't fast forward so that I can see how much time's on there. I never know where I'm at in the show.
Right.
When they keep talking like we're 60 minutes in, I'm like, are you kidding me? And so now here I am thinking, I'm not sitting through 2 hours of a gauntlet, and then don't you know, 2 hours later, I'm still watching a gauntlet match. Like they got me. They absolutely. and I typically fast forward through most of them, but they had me. It was I might have skipped maybe the first 5 minutes of the match after the promo, you know what I mean? And then I got so hooked in, I was like, wow, they really, whoever's idea it was, and I saw if there was a rumor that it was Vince or this or that. I mean, I don't care who, like this is, I don't really care whose idea it was. All I know is that they took a gamble. Do you think it's a gamble spending your first 2 hours on a gauntlet match?
I mean, with it being the last show before a pay-per-view, I don't think it's a gamble. Especially when you have a gimmicky type of show like that. But let's say like this was like a Gallagher show to like Payback or something, then yeah, that may be a risk because these guys are not intertwined with their particular feuds. All these guys for the Chamber, yeah, they're fighting each other. They are in a feud. So I wouldn't say this was the actual risk, but if you're doing it for a non-gimmicky style pay-per-view, then yeah. And you never know because you wouldn't know that Phoenix would be that invested for that match the entire 2 hours.
I was going to say, okay, because here was the flip side of it that I was going to just the other side of the perspective. And that's buying a ticket, thinking, hell yeah, we're going to go. Like, if that would have been my daughter's first show, I don't know if that would have been, like, it was great for us as wrestling fans. That wouldn't have been a great first show for her. You know, because she is in more to like the promos, and she is in more to the women's division. She is more into, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's the same. So, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, guys, I'm nobody. But I think that for how well it was, they knew they had to make it count, and they absolutely executed how they needed to. And this isn't me trying to be a WWE show. This isn't. I went in thinking, oh, this is going to be bad, and the internet is going to like turn on this idea. And after the match played out, it was like, wow, they pulled this off. Like, well done. Very well done. You know, so I don't know. I just think that sometimes maybe taking that risk is worth the reward. Yeah.
Right. I have this thing I was mentioning earlier about not knowing the Mania card, and I think that's cool. And you're saying that gauntlet match kind of sold the pay-per-view in that way. Like, usually people be like, oh, you know what's happening with the Mania card via the Rumble. Like, all we know now is that AJ Styles will fight Nakamura at WrestleMania, which is cool. And then Ronda Rousey is going to be part of the show. Fine. That's fine. That doesn't bother me. But I think you'll probably get a better idea of what the Raw side of WrestleMania will be represented after this Sunday.
Well, yeah, I absolutely agree, because then that's the home stretch to Mania. But do you think they traveled fast and they switched the title off of Styles last minute? And then, I'm not saying they wouldn't give it back to him, like maybe a couple days later. Do you think would they pull a fast when is it Backlash? What's
Fastlane
coming up? Fastlane. Oh yeah, I forgot. We got to keep with the car theme. Just because already, this is one thing that, like, if one thing I could be critical about, it should be AJ Styles and Nakamura at WrestleMania. We all know that. That's what we want to see. We have, you know, so immediately it takes away any kind of steam from that fatal 5-way at the pay-per-view, you know? Unless they pulled something where, like, they had something upset AJ Styles on a surprise thing, and he won the title back, like, a couple nights later on SmackDown before Mania, you know? Otherwise, like, I just feel like we know how it's going to end up. I mean, it isn't helping build that pay-per-view for me, per se. That's all.
I thought that, like, you were talking about potential switches. Like, I thought they were going to do that last year with Luke Harper and have that Wyatt 3-way at Mania, but that didn't happen. And that's kind of a thing that I shouldn't have done as a fan, because I talked about this in the past before. Just because a particular match at Mania not be to your liking, just because you're adding another person into it and making it a triple threat match, doesn't mean you're going to have the same effects as Daniel Bryan. I was one of the few people that said that Randy Orton and Batista could have happened at the show, and they didn't have to close out the show. You didn't need to have Daniel Bryan in the triple threat match. You didn't have to. You could have found a way to have him get the title at the Chamber or something, and have him fight Triple H at WrestleMania since Punk left the company. And you still could have had Randy Orton and Batista doing their own thing on the show. You still could have had that. This thing now where, we're going to add Rollins to Roman and Brock. And yeah, I get their history going back to WrestleMania 31, but do we really need a triple threat match just to say, we need a triple threat match to close out every Mania in New Orleans? Let's do it.
Well, I'd hate for it to be done just because they have nothing else for Seth Rollins, you know? I mean, not that, granted, it's not that he wouldn't take a spot on the card, I'm sure, you know? Maybe this is going to be a popular opinion, but I was looking forward to Brock Lesnar versus whomever one-on-one. And it's not because I'm a big Brock fan. It's not. It's just I'm ready to see. Okay, who's going to be the one to finally do this? You know, because this is what they have us on the hook now. Okay, who's finally going to be the guy that beats them? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Roman? Or is it going to be Strowman? You know, whoever it's going to be, obviously their name's going to rhyme. So it's either going to be Roman or Strowman. But I don't know, man. I guess as a Rollins fan, if it keeps him off the pre-show and it keeps him on the main card, I guess. But I would have, I guess that's how I'm looking at it. I don't know. This is one of them half full, half empty type of situation.
Rollins is not going to be on the pre-show.
Dude, I wouldn't think so, but I don't know, man. Like, right now, I don't know what they would even have for him, you know?
That's the cool thing, though. We don't have to know.
Right. Well, no, no. I mean, that's I'm like that with everyone else. Whenever Jason Jordan, is it for sure that Jason Jordan can't go for WrestleMania?
He's out. Who knows? Maybe he could fight Miz. Throw it out there. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
I mean, I know this won't happen, but Roman versus Angle would actually be pretty good.
Yeah, that would be pretty good too, to be honest with you. Going back to your AJ point, I want to bring that up really quick. I don't think it's a fatal 5-way just because they have nothing else to do. I just think that's their answer to the Elimination Chamber, since they don't have something gimmicky on Fastlane. I think that's the only reason why they're doing the 5-way. I don't think it's something where it's like, we're just going to add other people to the WWE title match. I don't think that's happening. I think Owens and Zayn isolate each other, and we were talking about this last night, actually. I don't think Owens and Zayn are going to be added to the title match. The more and more the stuff that keeps going on with Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon's going to have to reach a certain point and figure out why they keep arguing with each other. And one way or another, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are not getting a WWE title shot at Mania. And no, I don't think Dolph Ziggler is going to win, and Baron Corbin's just getting the rub to be in the match with the guys. So I wouldn't look at it as like, we're going to add more people to the WWE title match. I think it's more of, they got the Elimination Chamber? Let's do a Fatal 5-Way match.
That's why, I definitely agree. I guess I'm just, it almost feels like, then again, we know, typically we know how matches are generally predictable, so I don't want to make it seem like it's that big of a deal.
Right.
I guess maybe it doesn't take too much to do, because I actually think that we're going to see a cash in the next SmackDown pay-per-view anyway to set up a WrestleMania match. That's either here or there.
Carmella. Yes.
I think, you know what I mean? I don't know, because they seem to not really be addressing Charlotte either, speaking of SmackDown and another SmackDown title. See, this is what I like, Josh. I like all of these questions that we have, just kind of go with the story and just kind of keep going forward with the story versus constantly being online and talking about how many different ways this should be booked, because this is the fun part of it, is this just talking about how many different ways they can go. Yeah,
you're not... Yeah, you don't know what the card is, and you're not making Mania predictions on February 23rd, 2018.
Then you don't get mad because some dirt sheet in Topeka, Kansas, that has 10 listeners, said, well, we heard that CM Punk was coming back and was wrestling, returning or debuting Kenny Omega. That's never going to happen. But somebody would absolutely believe that.
Yeah, no shot. Yeah, I don't even know if The Undertaker's going to show up. If he does, okay. I thought last year was the last time I was going to see him in person to perform, and I was very lucky to go see that in person. But if he shows up this year, cool, I'll be down there in New Orleans. So either way, that'll probably be it for Taker. But we'll see what happens. Let's go back. Let's go back to Ronda Rousey. She is going to be signing her Raw contract on Sunday at the Elimination Chamber, which makes sense since they're in Vegas. That's where the pay-per-views can be held. That's one of USC's new homes, the T-Mobile Arena. I think that's the name of it, right? Yeah. T-Mobile Arena. So Ronda Rousey will be starting her road to the world of WrestleMania. And me and you were advocates for it because we know that she's a big fan of the business and she wants to do this. And it's not, let me get a paycheck and this and that. I'm excited to see what she brings to the table. I thought the little video package they did of her training that they aired on Monday after the Gauntlet match was really good. We'll see what happens. I don't have any expectations. I don't know what she's doing at the show, but I want to go with this journey. I was only 4 when Mike Tyson was starting his thing with Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels before WrestleMania 14. I was watching, but was I really knowing what was going on at that time? No. But you have Ronda Rousey doing this. I want to enjoy this, and we'll see what happens at Mania.
Everybody's jumping the gun on this so instantly quick. She's so polarizing already that she's already a proven asset from a business standpoint. So, she's already been worth money in Twitter unpaid media service about getting the message out about Ronda Rousey signing with WWE. There's so many good things they can do with her. Like we talked about before. This is inevitable, and I know that there's still people saying, well, it's unfair to the other women in the locker room. Listen, I understand this argument. That's fine, and I'm not saying that there was if I was in that locker room, I don't know how my feelings would be. But Josh, we talked about this, and this is the point that I wanted to make. I think that we should all just really just kind of see where they go with Rousey first, and kind of get a vibe for what they do, and let's not jump the shark. Only because it's, for as much negativity as, at least inside the wrestling bubble, outside the wrestling bubble, all I hear is, I can't wait to see what she does in WWE. It's the wrestling bubble is the one that's, having this, eternal feud, right?
Yeah.
So...
What else is new?
What else is new? But for me, though, I think that, there's also reports that WWE is interested in giving Rob Gronkowski, Ronda Rousey, basically almost damn near the same contract. I think Sports Illustrated, reported on it, a couple other sites. Here's my question, Josh. And now I absolutely am not. I mean, listen, everyone knows I kind of pull for the Patriots just because I like how everybody hates them. But, Gronkowski isn't a guy that, like, I would necessarily want to come in and just watch on a weekly basis or even on a special occasion basis. I don't vibe with him like that I'd want him to be, But I understand, from a business standpoint, I get it. I get why they would do it. He's a household name. There's name recognition. There's a branding recognition behind him. But what I find a little bit amusing, Josh, is more people are on board with Rob Gronkowski inside the Twitter wrestling bubble. More people are receptive to Rob Gronkowski coming in than Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is a trained fighter. Rob Gronkowski is a trained bro. It's like two totally different things. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't understand how, and this is just one. I'm not saying everybody is entitled to an opinion, but I'm just saying that I think that we have to start to rethink opinions when we start to see that there's a WWE blueprint. Yes, I know it's WWE logic, but it's because it's their business. It's an entertainment conglomerate, So they want to get names. They want to get household names. They would hire, or they would sign anybody they could, Josh, if it meant like, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, as wrestling fans, you have one of two things: either learn to love it or don't watch. Because this is the direction that it's going now, because they're embracing the entertainment side. It's not the old school days of trying to keep kayfabe alive, and So I just don't understand why there's still this resistance to Rousey, but a little bit more of an acceptance to Rob Gronkowski. I don't know.
Well, I don't
know, man. But I'm hyped because I know my daughter's really excited to see what they do with Rousey.
Yeah.
I know it's going to cause an internal household feud if Rousey and Asuka eventually cross paths, which they absolutely will, because my daughter's a big Asuka fan, and so that'll cause some nice household turmoil. But I don't know, man. I think this is just that next step in elevating the women's division to that equal, that sever but equal platform. And people don't have to like it, but that's if it works for the men.
Works for the
financially,
ladies.
And that's the thing. It's the financials, dude. They know it makes money. They care about making money. They don't care about pleasing these wrestling bubble fans. They don't care about pleasing me and you. They care about making money. And you do that by attracting outside the bubble. I never used to like that argument. Josh, I hated that argument. But after 4 years of doing this, you start to realize it makes sense, especially when you start to see the stocks go up and up and up and up, so.
Yeah, you're getting more hits on all these major publications and stuff. And
absolutely. You have people talking, you have different media outlets talking, this is exposure is exposure. And WWE right now, any company right now, it's all about exposure that you can translate. As much as I hate to say it, let's tie it back full circle. It's about how it can then get translated over into getting people talking on social media. It's in a way a barometer of really seeing how healthy your business is.
There's always one thing that came with the wrestling bubble, and that's double standards, and that's the truth, and nothing but the truth, Roof. I'm gonna render this thing really quick. I'm officially rendering the hashtag WWE logic obsolete.
Yeah, delete that. That's a definite. I don't like any logic statements. It bothers me. I don't know why it does. It's deleted.
I'll never understand. This is the thing. We're watching something on the preference that doesn't make sense. We've been watching this thing for over 20 and 30 years of a product that's not supposed to make sense. Yet we go our way every single week to try to make logic out of it. Like, that's what I don't understand. That's why people say wrestling is escape, right? Because it doesn't have real life aspects. You have these superhero characters. It's not supposed to make sense. This is entertainment. That's the main thing that just annoys the shit out of me. It's not supposed to make sense. It's not The Sopranos. It's not Gotham.
And really, those aren't supposed to make sense either. Those are all supposed to be fantasy worlds.
Right.
And that's the thing is that, these stories are just that. They're stories. And people are
I have just 2 predictions for the Chamber pay-per-view before we get out of here. I do want to say this really quick, though. Our boy Wonky Matt Hardy will be in action against Bray Wyatt this Sunday at the Chamber. I was gonna say this is pretty funny. I still get a kick out of Matt's promos. The fact that we're still getting broken Matt Hardy promos on WWE is still pretty hilarious to me. And sending to the realm of deletion, yes.
Dude, every time they cut one of those promos, it still makes me laugh because, I mean, I've said this a couple times, so I'm sorry if you've heard this before, but if you haven't, it reminds me like when they do that, like it goes back and forth real quick between Bray then Matt, then Bray then Matt.
Yeah.
Bray's like how wrestling fans see wrestling, and Matt is like how like your friend that makes fun of you for watching wrestling sees wrestling, So it's
right.
It's like that's what for me is so. I think it works so well for me. But see, some people don't, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. Criticisms are okay, guys. I'm just saying I think sometimes we pick the wrong criticisms. But this isn't supposed to be a serious storyline. This is supposed to be satirical. This is supposed to make it. This is supposed to be a goofy storyline.
Right. Mm-hmm. Punkster, let me get your predictions for the men's and women's Elimination Chamber match.
So I have to make people cry, do I?
Yes.
I'll be public enemy number 1. All right. Roman Reigns. I'm gonna go with Roman, but you know what? I want it to be Braun Strowman. It's just I just want to put that out there. I mean, I think in a way that we always talk about earning it and this and that. Maybe he's another year away. Maybe they'll have something planned, or maybe I don't know. But I'd really like to see. I think Strowman's a guy that is at least really, really believable too, and a guy that can maybe take out. Although he took a pretty mean right hook from him a couple weeks ago.
I'm not finished with you.
But I'm going to go with Roman, with Braun being my very strong number 2. The women's chamber match, I think Alexa Bliss loses, and I think it's going to keep going into, you put me in a match, you put me in a tag team with two girls that, 2 women that have been attacking me for the past month. You put me in an elimination chamber, and I had to defend my title against all these other women for the first time. I think Alexa Bliss loses it, and then that's how she could leverage all that anger against the, you cause, basically blaming everybody but herself, and that's how her and Stephanie can have their match. That's just what I want to see, guys. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But, so with that being said, I do think Ronda Rousey's in this match on Sunday, and I think she walks out. I know people aren't going to like it, but I think she walks out WWE Women's Champion on Sunday. And I think we see Asuka versus Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania.
Nice. For me, I got Braun Strowman winning. I think Seth Rollins returns the favor on Roman for the Rumble. I think Roman...
okay.
Yeah, I think that Seth and Roman are going to fight each other at WrestleMania. I'm sticking that to my guns. I think that's going to happen, so I'm going to go with Braun to win the men's chamber match. And then I agree with you, Alexa will lose. I think Bayley wins, and then after the chamber, while she's celebrating with Sasha turns on her.
Okay, I like that. Now, here's my one question. And the only reason why I say this is I own 2 WrestleMania 30 T-shirts that CM Punk's on, and we all know that he was there. But but would they, knowing that they've really wanted Lesnar versus Roman at this Mania, like for a year, do you think they would, just because of injury, do you think how much merchandise has already been printed that we don't know about? Or do you think that they even, you know what I mean, how much advertising material, marketing material?
Right.
Because I think that, if they didn't get that deep into it just because of what has been going on in the past couple of years, dude, I am absolutely down with a year where surprise us all, put Strowman against Lesnar, have Roman versus Seth, just a grudge match, you know what I mean? Dude, I totally dig your scenario more than I dig my scenario. My fear is I just don't know how much of their promotional material, merchandise, stuff like that, they already have pre-printed, like ready to go on like Monday. You know what I mean? Because that's something that we always forget as wrestling fans. Like, the merchandise is printed right now.
Yeah.
They want to start selling it on Monday. Like, it's not Sunday night, you know? So, I don't know.
Not only the digital advertising. Let's talk about the advertising and the banners that you have at Access and all these all these flags they have downtown for Mania Week. They're already printed out and ready to go.
That's the only reason why I still think that Braun won this match. Otherwise, I actually think that Braun has the momentum. This could be a year where you absolutely put Braun Strowman in the main event against Brock Lesnar. Listen, Braun is my champion. Okay, I'm the hashtag, but
right.
But I just think that there's probably too much money already invested in a certain match. That's all. Mm-hmm. I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to say that either. I'd like to see Reigns versus Lesnar. I put my % on that match.
I'm glad you brought that up because I want to get this off my chest before we get off air today. And I told you, you're the man. You're the right hand man for this show, man. I appreciate you leading me up to this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You guys know how I have the Yacht Club segment and I display clips of people in the wrestling bubble who take themselves too seriously. That's basically what that segment is. It's called You're a Nimrod Club. I want to throw that out there before anybody tries to throw any racial allegations towards me. That's not what you're thinking. Get your head out together. I'm not that type of person. It's You're a Nimrod Club. Everybody loves the club. They got the Bullet Club. They got the Golden Lovers Club. The clubs and Club of Bullets and Woken Warriors and all this shit. There's all a bunch of clubs. But my club is displaying audio of people who have their heads so far shoved up their ass when it comes to the wrestling bubble and what's going on in wrestling today, that they just make asses out of themselves. Now, in the past, I just used Dave Meltzer clips because it's easy, and I think him and Brian Alvarez give broadcasting and journalism a bad name with how they conduct themselves on air, but that's just my opinion. So I air a lot of their clips, and I used to air a lot of Russo clips because, let's be honest, folks, you listen to the guy, he's playing a character. Let's keep it 100 here, guys. Oh, by the way, shout out to you and Sam for that. Keep it 100. Keeping that still in the years, yes.
Admittedly, we ripped that from the Larry Wilmore show when it was still on. But.
Right. But Russo's playing a character on the show, so I play his dumb shit on here as well. And then recently I've been airing that OTRS Central dude, whatever, the guy that's been feuding with Cody Rhodes on Twitter, which that guy's a fucking moron. I'm just throwing that out there. But I saw this tweet last night before I went to bed, and I forgot the name of the podcast. It's probably not for you guys looking anyway, because that's a freaking scumbag. This guy, I forgot the name of the Twitter, but I saw this tweet, and it said, "My fingers are crossed that Roman gets suspended with this steroid allegation so we can finally have our chance to have a match at Mania not closed with Roman Reigns." Verbatim. That's the quote right there I saw before I went to bed last night. And here's my thing. I don't care who you love, salivate, get on your knees for it. I don't. You like who you like, I like who I like. I don't have a favorite guy in WWE. My favorite guy in WWE doesn't wrestle anymore. So I'm out of the loop. I don't have a horse in this race anymore. I'm not a Sasha San who acts like she's a Stone Cold of wrestling and she should never lose it. Oh, look at her marketability. I ain't wasting your time with that bullshit. And I'm not, and I get it. The guy's
Mandy Rose, wait, not to interrupt you. Mandy Rose has more marketability right now, I think, maybe than anybody on that main roster. And that's just, and I'll let you get back to your thing, so let's go ahead.
I would agree with you with that, and you would know from a corporate standpoint why she would have more market value. Yep. So here's the thing. I get this guy's polarizing. He may not be everybody's cup of tea, this and that. Hell, he's not even my favorite guy in the roster, but I'm a fan of him. I'm not going to hide from that. I'm a fan of the guy. The guy puts on pay-per-view quality matches every single week. But this is my main issue. Doesn't matter what talent is. For you to openly go out of your way to say that somebody should be suspended for something that may or may not be true, or wish somebody that gets injured, or celebrates the fact that a guy like Jason Jordan is missing WrestleMania due to a neck injury because you don't like his booking on the show, you are scum. I don't care. That's bullshit. You don't wish injuries on performers, and you're trying to take money out of other performers' pockets because you don't like the way how they're presented on a freaking scripted television show. Get over yourself. Get out of the fucking bubble and get a fucking life. That's ridiculous. The dude lost his brother last year after WrestleMania. His house got torn to shreds during those hurricanes last year. The guy gets injured. He gets caught with the mumps. The guy's taking L after L on the shows. When he's on the shows, he hasn't been a WWE champion for over 2 years. 2 years. This is the shit that pisses me off. You want to say the guy shoved down your throat and he's the reason why wrestling's horrible today and all this other bullshit you hear on every dumb podcast like the New Age Insiders. And, this guy's a steroid user. But you want to go out of your way and say that the guy should get suspended because you don't want to see him in the main event of WrestleMania. That's stupid. That's fucking stupid.
It's a juvenile way to get what you want, is what it is. You know, it's saying I can't find a reason or make a case to say why I don't believe that he belongs in that spot. So all I'm going to say is I hope he gets injured or suspended. It's a coward's way. It's a coward's excuse. You know, that's like saying, hey, I'm in the finals in this tournament, and I hope the dude gets a flat tire on the way here, so I don't have to face him. Right. So that I just win the championship. You know what I mean? Like, I have more respect for Team USA's women's goalie who, when given the silver medal, instantly took it off. Because you don't earn the silver, you're given the silver. You know what I mean? So, yeah. It's a wish, and Josh, to wish injury on anybody is that's a special kind of low. You know, if you really think a talent is, and again, this is professional wrestling, guys. This isn't like, you know, this is scripted no matter how you cut it. So you're probably not going to get what you want anyway. But wouldn't you want somebody that if you didn't like a talent and didn't connect with a talent, wouldn't you want them to fail on their own so that you could laugh? Because if they get injured, that's not a failure. If they, you know what I mean? If they get suspended, that's not really a failure because it's just called a slip-up. People make mistakes. Right. And wishing harm on other people just to self-satisfy your own whatever you think you want to see, that's a special kind of that's a special kind of the shape of it is, Josh, is like that's unfortunately more often than not a mindset that we have. We have a very envious society. We have a very we don't have a society that wants to show people, hey, I can beat you. We have a society that would rather sit behind a computer screen and hope that somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous to even you know, it's just like, and listen, this is just like when people say about what's going on in you know with politics. I absolutely do not like when anybody says they wish harm on our president. I don't give a fuck how much I don't like the dude. You do not talk. You know what I mean? Like you don't. It's just you don't. That's just something you don't say.
You don't go there.
You know. Yeah, it's just something that's going to rub me the wrong way. I don't care how much I don't like the person that's in that office. You just don't. You don't wish harm on people like that. Such a I don't know, man. So even my worst enemies or my greatest, you know, allies, you just don't wish harm on people. It's a cowardly way of saying I suck as a human being, so people suck too.
Right. Exactly. And guys, I want to apologize for that because I don't like ranting. I used to do it in the past and it gave me freaking headaches and stuff like that. I didn't want to do that, but I needed to get that off my chest because that's just ridiculous, man. Like, it's not me standing up for Roman or anything like that. The guy could defend himself. I mean, look at the fucking guy. I don't think he needs to worry about me defending him or anything like that. It's just my issue with society, and you're openly wishing somebody gets hurt and not being able to provide for your family because you don't like his subjective booking. That's the stuff that I don't like, and that's the stuff I don't appreciate, and that's one of the reasons why I left the pipe on, because we got to degrade these talents personally because we don't like their predetermined booking, and I just think that's stupid. This is not a sport. This is entertainment. Get over yourself. And I didn't want to curse. I didn't want to vent like that, but that's just freaking ridiculous.
Well, no, I mean, listen, it's not just any maybe former outlets that we've not been on before. There's a lot of outlets out there that are like that. You know, it's not just that's unfortunately more of the norm than it is the exception, though.
Right.
You know? And I think that's why I keep saying that there is a problematic aspect to that because listen, we can not like a product as much as we want, but what good and this is I think this is where we're running into problems too when it comes to negativity, when it comes to like people joking or whatever. Like I put out this is just going back to whenever it was still the NFL season and with Carson Wentz first got hurt. I just put a joke out that was like, oh yeah, it looks like they're this year's Raiders. And it was really just a joke about, a team that just came out of nowhere again, a hot team,
right.
Young quarterback, and got hurt. That's just the only thing, and it was like good luck next year. And I didn't, but meanwhile, here's what people don't know. Because I don't salivate all over, like, the Philadelphia Eagles every week on Twitter, you don't know that I'm, like, a ginormous Chris Long fan. He's Howie Long's son. There's Raider in him. You don't know the players in that fall. You don't know that that's actually the Philadelphia team that I pull for. Nobody knows these things. So when I start getting hit up by Philly fans, like, well, what do you mean? And it's like, guys, it's a goddamn joke. Like, settle down. And
right.
But that's the problem, Josh, is everybody's skin is so thin. And everybody is always at that trigger point where, you can't even make a joke without, like, I've never, like I said, dude, if I spent my day trying to call out people on Twitter that either talk shit about Chris Jericho, CM Punk, the Oakland Raiders, or whomever, I'd have a pretty lonely day and a really boring day and a really just aggravating day, but that kind of ties into like the Roman Reigns thing. Nobody's opinion has changed with Roman Reigns because nobody has changed their outlets of information. You're on Twitter talking in the same circles that you've always spoken to. You're still listening to the same podcast that you've always listened to. They're still going to keep giving the same narrative because they don't have, I didn't know, the initial Roman Reigns push I wasn't about. After WrestleMania 31, I was totally cool with whatever the hell they did with them. And a main reason why was because I realized my daughter was a Roman Reigns fan. And I went, oh, this isn't just about me. This is a variety show. But most people that do podcasts, exceptions aside, shout out to the work, by the way,
yeah.
But most of them aren't parents. They don't have kids that maybe watch wrestling with them. They don't really pay attention. Or maybe my situation is different because I pay attention because my daughter's female is really involved with what they claim as a man's thing. But then, she loves the women's of it. So it opened me up a little more to, oh, wait a minute. I have to start thinking more along the lines of, when I'm watching these, and I need to start just enjoying it again. I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at, and I actually just think that I've seen the argument that, we're just fans, and it's just, it makes us mad. Completely tearing down a product or just spending 2 hours shitting on a company, you're not a fan. That's not what people do.
Yeah, and if that's
talking about ways to improve it, not going, this is bullshit. This is the only person that can stop with that. I dare any of you to write a story. Write a story. Explain to me how to write a story. The art of storytelling is lost on so many podcasters, and I'm not trying to put myself up above anybody, but I think you go into a writer's room, and then you go into a creative room, and then there's like that final steps room. And I'm sure it's much different in WWE's format. There's a lot, people don't truly understand all the variables that have to be taken in. And it's just, I'm not saying that I think that people hide behind we're just fans and we're just mad. No, you're not. You're trying to get clicks. And now you're using a sympathy card. You're using a pity card because you're a pity fool. So.
Yeah. My last tip for everybody, if booking is a reason for you to get legitimately upset, then you need to realize that this is not for you anymore. So this is the last thing I'll mention about that. Go ahead.
Hey, Josh, you know what? I think that ties into the last time I was on. I spoke about it. I think a lot of people they just won't admit to themselves that either they have moved past WWE style of wrestling or WWE style of wrestling has moved past them. But regardless, we're creatures of habit. It's a habitual thing. We're afraid. Everybody has FOMO. We're afraid we're going to miss out on something, And at the end of the day, it's almost like people would rather sit and complain, hoping for that one moment so that they could say they saw it, rather than realize, you know what, I just don't like this anymore. And I think that's where, and that's not just with wrestling. That's everything in society. Mm-hmm. And I think that is where we need to start to do a lot of self-analysis and say, okay, wait a minute, maybe it's not the product. Maybe I'm just a little more grown and a little more mature, and this ain't for me anymore. Not everybody has to be the lifelong wrestling fan, especially if you totally forget when it comes full circle, like with me being a parent now, and you realize all over again, oh yeah, it is for the kids first, and then they just kind of give us stuff here and there. Got it. Mm-hmm. It makes the hard opinion seem very trivial and just kind of silly. Just silly, to be honest.
Ladies and germs, you can follow Adam at Twitter and Instagram at AdamDaley13. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at NotoriousJoshing. Make sure to like the Facebook page, facebook.com/JWL Podcast. Make sure to leave a review for the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast from. Shout out to Hoodie for coming on the show this week. Follow me at Twitter at TweetJHood. That interview is going to be at the beginning portion of this podcast, so make sure to listen to that. We're going to do a longer one pretty soon. And he has a good podcast called the Under the Hood Podcast, which you subscribe to right now on iTunes. I have my website, ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. I have articles coming out this week for New Japan's Honor Rising show with Ring of Honor. They have 2 shows. I was doing the Night 1 article earlier this morning. And I'll be covering the Chamber, of course, this Sunday. So make sure to check out my website. We'll have Adam back on the show sooner or later. we go for the seat of the pants. There's no contracts or this like that. Adam comes on when he wants to come on, so it's all good.
Maybe I'll be a pay-per-view guy. Maybe we'll do pay-per-view weekend. We'll book it in the pay-per-views.
Right. Punkster, man, thanks for coming on the show again.
Josh, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having me on. And real quick, everyone out there, if you're not doing anything this weekend, we're talking tomorrow, February 24th, Saturday, 9 p.m. England time. So I believe that makes that 4 p.m. Eastern Standard, 1 p.m. on the West Coast. One of my favorite bands, Muse, is having a special by request concert. And if you've never seen one of their by request shows, it's the most incredible show you will ever see one of today's modern rock bands play. They're airing it live on, I believe, Periscope, on Facebook Live, on all kinds of stuff. I know I sound like I'm a tool for Muse right now, but I am a tool for Muse, and I'm a Muse for Tool, which they apparently have a CD hopefully coming out this year too. But tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, if you're not doing anything, it's a weekend, kick back, do what you do, and listen to some live music, and it's a concert. I guarantee that you're not going to be disappointed. But Josh, thanks, brother. Thanks for having me back on. Shout out to Nick over in the UK. Shout out to the Wook and everyone else who's been supporting us. Derek, me and you got to have a chat soon, brother. And Josh, we'll be talking about it soon.
Absolutely. For Punkster, for Hoodie, my name is Josh Lopez. You guys can checking out episode 94 of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. Hope you enjoyed the show this week. Enjoy the Chamber. We'll talk about it next week. We're 5 episodes away to hitting that 100 mark. We're about to head to New Orleans in April. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. My first trip to New Orleans for Mania. So hopefully I'll see you guys down there. And we'll hang out and shoot the shit with the obsolete mule, Brother Carter. You can follow him at Twitter, by the way, at Derrico06. This one thing, remember, folks, remember to live your life your own way. You are the director of your life story, nobody else. I'll talk to you guys later. Hope you enjoyed this week's Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast.